Beau is back with another movie review. Now this one I've been meaning to do for a while now. Today I look at the 1992 film Bad Lieutenant, which was directed by Abel Ferrara, co-written by Zoe Lund, and starring the great Harvey Keitel. Now I've been a big fan of this movie ever since I saw it back on TV in the late 2000s. I believe it was Channel 4 that broadcast the film late one night and I caught it on TV. I knew about the film, but I'd never seen it up until that point. So I recorded it and watched it the next day. I distinctively remember the video quality of the movie being pretty poor, even for TV standards. I think Channel 4 may have used an old VHS copy for its broadcast. And in fairness, you know, the grainy quality only heightened the film's gritty aesthetic. It was only actually upon watching it this time around that I got a chance to see the film in full HD. The new print upgrade was nicely done and it really heightened the film's overall quality. So Harvey Keitel plays the bad New York lieutenant. He's a functioning alcoholic cokehead who seems more interested in placing bets than doing any actual police work. It's a wonderful, raw and authentic performance from Keitel. At the start of the film, the character is somewhat composed, but as his addictions take hold, we see more of a manic and emotional side emerge. You know, to pull off this role correctly, the movie needed an actor who had a very strong screen presence, but also an actor with a wide range of acting ability. And I have to say, Harvey Keitel was a fantastic choice for this role. I'm not really surprised because this film was, of course, directed by Abel Ferrara, who himself has a long track record of working with top caliber actors. There's various scenes where we see the lieutenant's corrupt behavior. Early on, we see the lieutenant running down the New York streets, chasing a drug dealer into a housing project. The chase itself quickly slows down, and we learn that the lieutenant and this drug dealer he's chasing actually knew each other all along, and this whole thing was just a ruse. The two end up in this hallway, and within a few minutes, the lieutenant is taking out his crack pipe and sniffing powder, and you got this drug dealer awkwardly just standing there, keeping a lookout. It's a very amusing moment. Like, the cop is on duty. He's supposed to protect and serve, but here he's consuming Class A drugs, handing over stolen evidence from a crime scene. Because Keitel plays this role so earnestly, it's actually tragic and amusing at the same time. So as the lieutenant's self-destruction continues, we also see a local nun attacked and sexually abused by a group of men. The assault itself raises alarm in the local community, and the Catholic Church put up a monetary reward to catch the perpetrators. We see Keitel's character start to investigate the incident, but it's safe to say that this crime is not his main priority. His main priority, of course, was getting high and making bets with his colleagues. And talking about gambling, the baseball player Darryl Strawberry is heavily referenced by the cops in this film, to the point where I thought he was somehow involved with this film behind the scenes. And the reason I say that is because not only is he mentioned, we see the lieutenant at a bar watching him play baseball on TV, but there's also a scene where the lieutenant is driving He's listening to the baseball results and he hears the news that Strawberry and his team, the Dodgers, lose the game. He then proceeds to go berserk, pull out his gun, shoots the radio, and starts frantically driving. It's a very intense and entertaining scene, and you've got the lieutenant basically making racial slurs and calling Darryl Strawberry the N-word in this movie. I mean, the scene itself was executed brilliantly. It all happened in one take, and you really feel the lieutenant's frustration as he gets deeper and deeper into debt. But that whole scene made me think about Darryl Strawberry. Now, the crazy outburst completely fit perfectly with the lieutenant's increasingly erratic behaviour. But using a real-life public figure like Darryl Strawberry in your movie and then getting your fictional characters to make racial slurs about them, I don't know. It just surprised me that that was okayed. And I could be wrong, but I don't think that saying racial slurs to a real-life public figure would be okay in today's movie landscape. Now, I want to talk about the late actress Zoe Lund, who not only co-wrote this movie, but actually appeared in it as well. Lund has two minor scenes acting alongside Harvey Keitel, where their characters take drugs together in her apartment. There's very little dialogue used in these scenes, and we as an audience never understand fully about the two's relationship and how they know each other. Initially, you might be prone to think that Zoe Lund's character is the lieutenant's drug dealer, but if you watch the scene closely, there's no money exchanged, and to be honest, Zoe Lund's character comes across more as a friend of the lieutenant. Not that I know personally, but drug dealers wouldn't let their customers come into their apartment and just let them consume their drugs. So I heavily got the impression that these guys knew each other, but it still remains a mystery how. This would be Zoe Lund's most memorable screen appearance besides her lead role in the Abel Ferrara movie Miss 45. She is limited here, but it was still nice to see her reunite and work with Abel Ferrara. Specifically, Zoe Lund's line delivery was kind of awkward, but overall it made the scenes feel even more real. Abel Ferrara decided to use a static mid-angle wide shot for these two scenes featuring Zoe. There of course were some close-ups used as well, but they were limited. And having the camera static, it gave the scene this very raw, authentic feel. Very basic and done all in one single take, which only added to the realism. It's two minor scenes, but still both very significant. You know, the lieutenant is a functioning junkie degenerate throughout the film, making numerous bets on the New York Mets baseball team. He gets so far into his gambling debt, his middleman refuses to place any more bets for him. I mean, that's how bad it got. The lieutenant owes over 50k to this bookie that he can't pay. And when the lieutenant's middleman, who's placing the bets, basically outright warns him, listen, you're in debt, you're about to get killed. Like, these guys will come for your family, they'll blow your house up. The lieutenant, in his way, is just like, yeah, whatever, man. The lieutenant responds by saying, I'll pay the bookie 10 grand just for his troubles to blow up my house. Can't stand it. It's like... So earlier I mentioned the nun. She is attacked and the Catholic Church put up this reward to catch the perpetrators. At the end of the movie, we see the lieutenant talk to the nun in the church, pleading with her to give him the identities of the attackers. You know, let's not forget the $50,000 reward put out by the Catholic Church. At this point, the lieutenant is down and out. He's in a lot of debt and resorts to pressurizing the nun for info in the hope he can catch the attackers and nab the reward money in the process. Of course, the lieutenant should be in contact with the nun as he is investigating the case, but given his hostile nature towards the nun and his agitated state, it's clear to see what the lieutenant's real motives were. Deep down, he couldn't care about the nun. He didn't care about anything besides finding his next fix and placing more bets. This isn't some jaded cop who is hell-bent on catching the bad guys. He actually is a corrupt, drug-addled cop who's in debt and out of ideas how to fix it. We see the nun continue to state that she has no interest or wish to identify her attackers. She's basically forgiven them and has moved on. The talk with the nun only leads to a sequence where the lieutenant has a come to Jesus moment. We see the character cry out for forgiveness for his sordid behaviour. A great moment in the film and a great performance by Keitel. I don't know about you guys, but for me it didn't feel silly or hammy. In that moment you really felt the character's pain. And so we see a figure of Jesus that actually turns out to be a lady from the area who ends up leading the lieutenant to the attackers. So we have this cry for help from the lieutenant, and suddenly what he wanted comes true. An opportunity to make things right. Arrest the culprits and nab the reward money. Pay off the debt, problem solved. So the lieutenant finds these culprits, these perpetrators, and before he can make an arrest, he decides to sit next to them and smoke a crack pipe. Keitel's character has the gun out and he's pointing it to the culprits as they light his crack pipe. I mean, it was quite a sight to see. Even when he's found the bad guys and he can rectify all this bad stuff, he's still got to take a hit of the pipe. So he gets these two guys and puts them in his car, and as the audience you think, okay, they're going to drive to the police station and these guys are going to be put into a jail cell. But that's not how it pans out. The lieutenant ends up letting them go, so to speak, giving them money and a bus ticket out of New York City. By doing this, he rid the city of two dangerous thugs, but also honoured the nun's wish not to persecute them. The lieutenant arguably did the right thing by letting these two thugs leave the city. But, of course, by letting them go, the reward money is gone and he remains in debt. So the cry for help at the church was the lieutenant wanting to repent for his sins, and in turn, Lord Jesus Christ granting him that opportunity to cleanse his soul and show forgiveness to the thugs like the nun did. Turn the other cheek, as they say. So the thugs are put onto this bus, off they go, leaving the lieutenant still in debt and pretty much out of options. We then see the lieutenant sitting in his car when he is suddenly shot in the head by the bookie. The bookie wanted paying up, and he knew full well that the lieutenant, Harvey Keitel's character, wasn't going to pay up. And so the lieutenant dies, but if you think about it, he died a Catholic, forgiven for his own sins by God. And you can kind of see the change in behaviour from the lieutenant after the thugs leave New York. He's at peace with himself and the inner turmoil is gone. Then he's executed. You know, I have to say, Harvey Keitel is so good in this film. It's truly Oscar-worthy and is a real highlight in the actor's filmography. At times, the movie is kind of slow, not much is happening, but because Keitel has such a strong screen presence, you as a viewer are locked in and it's not boring at all. In fact, some of the long drawn out sequences really helped me immerse myself into that early 90s New York underworld. You know, I'm not overstating it in any way. Harvey Keitel is a top caliber actor who starred in some great films over the years. But this movie in particular is a really standout performance. He carries the film, and as an audience, you're fully engaged with the corrupt character, and in a way, I don't know, you kind of feel sympathy towards him. And it made me think, you know, we never really know why the lieutenant acts the way he does. He had a wife, he had 2 kids, he had a house, but all that, the family life, it wasn't enough for him. And the way I saw it, he was a victim of the job he did. You know, the brutal streets of New York City, especially in the early 90s, you know, they weren't easy to police. A lot of corruption from the police itself to the gangs, all kinds of stuff. I got the impression the job itself, with the long hours and the scum you're having to deal with day in, day out, really took its toll on the lieutenant's psyche, and for me, resulted in the character like the bad lieutenant. You know, having or dealing with that job day in, day out, a relentless task of trying to put bad guys away, over the years, it's going to, you know, play with your brain. We understand that the Keitel character had, you know, started off as a police officer, worked his way up the ranks to become lieutenant. But to get to that position, what kind of crap, what kind of corrupt stuff did he have to deal with to get to that point? And once he becomes lieutenant, he's just as corrupt as the drug dealers on the streets. Very powerful performance from Keitel. And yeah, he should have won the Oscar for this in 1993, absolutely. Keitel was brilliant in this, and this is my favourite performance from him. There's not been anything else that's really topped this for me. And so, dislikes for Bad Lieutenant 1992. I love the film. It's one of my personal favourites, as you may have guessed by watching this review. And so, I really can't think of any major issues I had with this film. This would be a small nitpick, but I thought there was enough Paul Calderone in this movie. Now, Paul Calderone, the actor, plays one of the lieutenant's colleagues who he's placing bets with. The reason I've not mentioned him in this review up until now is the fact that his character is pretty insignificant. As I said, he's one of the lieutenant's colleagues who appears in a handful of scenes. Calderone himself, the actor, had already worked previously with Abel Ferrara in the 1990 movie King of New York. In that movie, Calderone had a much bigger role, but he was able to showcase his acting ability. He's a great actor. I'm a big fan of him, especially when he appeared in Miami Vice a few years earlier. He's a great actor. I just wish he had more screen time. It kind of felt to me it was a waste, and you easily could have inserted a no-name actor into the same role and, you know, had the same results. When I think about it, really I would have actually liked to have seen more scenes with all the detectives interacting with each other, making the bets and stuff like that, because the few handful of scenes that we did get when that was happening, they were really, really entertaining. This film, Bad Lieutenant, is one of Abel Ferrara's strongest films. In years to come, I think this will be one of his most revered and remembered works in his filmography. The film, rightfully so, has been praised over the years, and while it never was a huge box office success, the film quickly garnered a cult status and is still highly regarded today. And so, in no way is this a forgotten gem. It's brilliant filmmaking from a director, Abel Ferrara, honing in on their craft, and it still holds up today. For those who haven't caught this one yet, be sure to know it's worth your time. If you're a fan of Abel Ferrara, especially some of his earlier projects like Driller Killer and Miss 45, I think you'll really enjoy Bad Lieutenant. And actually, all three films hold similar themes, with the lead character, the main focus, entering a downward spiral while they're trying to cope with their life in New York. It definitely would make a great triple feature. And so that was my review for Bad Lieutenant. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If anyone watching has seen this, please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's always good to read your thoughts. I saw this movie years ago and I instantly fell in love with it. I watched the movie again recently and it still holds up. It's brilliant, highly recommend it. And yeah, that's all from me today, guys. Thank you so much for all the support, and don't forget to subscribe. I will be back with more reviews very soon. Take care, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
Like, subscribe.